Rich, thank you for your time. Good to talk to you as always. We'll start by checking on Alex Mellor after he went off injured last night. What's the latest with him?
No difference really. We're trying to get him in for a scan later today. Obviously, short notice, it happened late last night, so that's ongoing as we speak today. So no change really. Highly unlikely. Well, he's not going to be available this weekend, and we just got his fingers and his toes crossed that it's a medial injury and a low grade one rather than any damage to his cruciate. But it's difficult to speculate until obviously we get the results from his scan.
Did he know at the time that it was potentially something serious?
Yeah, straight away he felt it, and I think when you look at the replays on the television, you can see, the immediate pain and the grimace. But he heard, he felt a pop in there. So, it's dangerous to speculate because until you get your scan through, sometimes knees can present in a different way to what the actual injury is. But I think it's fairly confident, and even from looking from the pictures, we're probably fairly confident that he's at least got some medial damage in there.
Yeah. How gutted are you for him based on that then?
Yeah. Gutted for him really. He's a good kid for us. He's been really consistent, and as we've said for many weeks now, we want a little bit of luck and some continuity and stability in our lineup, which we'll find a way though. We'll find a way. We've got some versatile players, and Bodine Thompson's not too far away. Dono's done a great job when he's had to play on the edge. We've got a lot of confidence in two young guys, in Sam Walters and Morgan Gannon. So we've got some opportunities there for some other guys in our squad, and that's what it's all about at the moment. That's what it is right through the comp, is your ability to fill in when you get people missing, because obviously there's a lot of people missing in the current climate, a lot more than there usually is, and being able to adapt to those situations. But yeah, we feel for Alex.
How is everyone else doing though after last night? Any other injury problems at all?
Yeah, Callum McLennan won't get named in the squad. He took a couple of heavy knocks, and on the night sort of got through him, but he's woken up today feeling a little bit dusty and some post effects, concussion type symptoms. So the doctor checked him and put him on a 7-day return to play. So again, he will miss and be available for Castleford next week. So he'll miss. We have got, as I say, we've got Bodine Thompson, Liam Sutcliffe and Tom Allroyd back available, as well as the guys that missed out from the previous week. So we still got a sort of fairly relatively healthy and sizable squad to pick from in comparison to what we've had over the last couple of months.
Yeah, how much is that needed to have the ability to freshen up with so many games in close succession at the minute as well?
Yeah, it's helpful. That's for sure. Well, we had a tough game last night. I thought at the time, decent intensity about it. Generally, in low-scoring games, it means because it's a little bit tougher. And yeah, we got through it. We got through it all right. But to have the ability to utilise 2 or 3 pairs of fresh legs will come in really, really handy. And then again, we're back on again next Friday. So it is. But there's 2 ways to look at it. We can. It is what it is. Everybody's in the same boat, and while it's not ideal, and we would all prefer a much different looking schedule, we're viewing it as opportunity to, as an opportunity to, to continue with some momentum and put some pressure on some teams above us.
As well, how did Zane feel afterwards last night after getting some action?
Yeah, good. Obviously, first game for a while, and he's had a little bit of a issue with his Achilles to contend with. So again, I think clearly he hasn't played for a number of weeks, which left him a little bit underdone match fitness wise. But he'll quickly get there, mate. He'll quickly get there, and every confidence in him.
Just on Bodine as well, actually, as you mentioned him, how big a influence could he have now that he's back and available again? Yeah,
well, we've missed Bodine this year, really. I mean, last year when he played for us, he played in a very, very congested period, and we're an absolute warrior. But he's had a fairly disrupted season up to press with 1 or 2 bits of injury. He's another one that had COVID in a pretty serious way, very serious way for a few days over there. So he's been feeling the after effects of that. He's had weight loss. So him, in terms of where he's at, we need to get him back up and running and get some miles in his legs, really, because he's had a very, very disrupted season so far.
In terms of where you're at the minute, you're just over 50% in terms of that win percentage following that victory against Hollis-C. What's your assessment of where you are at the minute?
We still feel we've got some catching up to do, but we still think there's plenty of time to catch up, Tim. It's well documented how we feel about pre-season and how we've been affected, and we lost some close games, and we have had some poor performances in there. But I don't think there's ever been a point where we think we're up against it. I think our performances are very much down to us. We're not looking at fixture lists, not looking at opposition too much. We're just sort of worried about getting our bits right, and still think there's enough time and enough fixtures for us to finish where we need to finish this year to make a dent in the playoffs. It's down to us. It's very, very much down to us. And a lot of the teams above us have got to play each other, and there's some congestion in their fixture list too. So for us, as I say, stability and momentum are sort of keywords for us at the moment. And if we can, keep finding some rhythm, I thought last night's second half performance were a real good one for us, Tim, because we've had some good first half performances the last couple of weeks and not finished them off. And in a tight game and a tough second half, we came out the backside in the last 20 minutes really well. So I think that'll give us a tremendous confidence lift and belief lift. And I've said for a while, look, belief's not an issue in our squad. And I know points percentage, it's a different way of looking at the table about us points percentage, and it's very strange to keep looking at it like that. And there's such a disparity in the fixture list at the moment around that, but that's why it's just important for us to keep trying to chalk off our performances and wins as we go along. And the table will take care of itself.
It is very strange not to be looking at points, but at long numbers with numbers and dots and digits and all that afterwards. But it's just how it is at the moment, isn't it, Rich? I suppose it's just a strange scenario.
It is, and that's why it's just even more important to look at ourselves and be ready to adapt. Be ready to adapt to situations that get thrown at you, and be ready to sort of change your team and at short notice, and almost play games without real practice, which is what we're doing. It's just a different, we had it last year, but it's a very, very different sort of a season that everybody is, I guess, finding their own curveballs week in, week out, and having to do the same as what we're doing. But as I say, despite a slow start to the season, which, we understand the reasons for that, we still think there's a long, long way to go where, there's enough opportunity for us in there.
And just finally for me, up against Warrington next, what are you expecting from them this week?
Well, look, we managed to get a win. They've only played one game since we played them last time, which again, we're back to what we've just talked about. They're a team that if you got to control the ruck again, because such is the speed on the back of any tempo that they're creating there. Blokes like Darryl Clark, Stephen Ratchford, Blake Austin. They've got a running game and a sort of offload game that can really trouble anybody when they get momentum. So, not letting them dictate the ruck speed to us. We're going to have to be really good and disciplined in our tackle and our ruck control, and handle what we see some really big threats. They've got plenty of power up front, and we managed to get away with a win again. And last time, I'm certain that they'll learn some lessons from that too. And at the same time, I think there's some areas where we know our standards have got to be really high again. And I think defensively they're really good too, Tim. I think the other night, probably a little bit like ourselves, they had a first half where the ball control wasn't great, but they defended really, really well for the bulk of that game. And I think they've been a strong defensive team for a while now. They're very disciplined disciplined in the line and keeping a straight line. So, we know we've got a tough game on our hands.
Best of luck with it, mate. Thank you for that.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Hi, Rich. All right. Are you expecting George Williams to play?
Yes.
What do you expect from George Williams?
Well, look, George's a quality player. He's a world-class player. We would be unsure whether he plays on the right or on the left. He's played for Canberra on the right. Gareth Woods played predominantly on the left, but Blake Austin played there the other night. So, I guess the combination on how they work it will be a little bit different. Blake Austin tends to roam both sides of the field. You'd imagine after what St. Young Thewlis played the other night that Stefan might drop back to fullback. So, George he enjoys playing at Headingley. He's told me that personally. He's going to want to impress on his debut. He's a great ball carrier, but his ability to play short or long is a real threat. I wouldn't imagine he's had much preparation time with his team. Again, they only played a couple of nights ago, so you'd have thought they'd have limited prep into that to get George in amongst it. But good players are good players, and he'll be highly motivated.
You said he's told you himself that he liked to play at Headingley. You made no secret of the fact that if you could, you would have liked to bring him in. There's a bit of irony in there, isn't there, that he makes his debut at Headingley against you?
Yes, I suppose so. Well, I had a chat. I'm good mates with George's dad. Real good. He's a good friend of mine. And we did have a chat with George. When good players like that come on the market, they don't come on the market real often. He told us how Headingley were his favourite ground, but it became apparent really quickly that he didn't want to be over this side of the Pennines from a domestic point of view. So there were no point in us really getting involved too much in a race for his signature and in any sort of auction. I think our club had stressed the contract wouldn't have been a problem, but certainly the geography of it wasn't going to work for George on a domestic front. So we didn't sort of pursue it for too long really.
Just finally for me, just wanted to ask you about Jack Walker. He put quite a cryptic post on social media. He captioned it 6 weeks. Everyone's guessing at what that actually means. Is he getting closer to being on the field? The next stage of his rehab. The caption was of a picture of him playing rugby league for Leeds. So I'm assuming that something's going on there.
I've not seen it. But I hope so. I hope he's back in 6 weeks because he'll be a really welcome addition. If we see him this season, that'll be a testament to his rehab, and he's in a positive frame of mind. You can see there's some improvements he's made to his body. He's had a foot injury, but at the same time, he's used his time really wisely to stick a little bit on himself upstairs. He's determined. He's a very determined young bloke, and he's rehabbed himself really well. That would be a welcome addition if we can get him back on the field in 6 weeks. I think we'd all be really, really happy because we want Jack back.
Just on him, he's been through a fair bit of hardship, hasn't he, with injuries and the like. How has this rehab gone for him in terms of, not you mentioned the physical side, but mentally and all that? How's he approached it, and in terms of trying to make sure that he can have bad luck with injuries, but making sure that he comes back in a position where he can really crack on and try and avoid those injuries moving forward? Yeah,
that's been a challenge. You can imagine if you're a young player and he has had to cope for some injuries. Rehab can be a really lonely place, really difficult, lonely place when you see your teammates out there performing. There's one thing about Jack, he absolutely loves playing the game. He doesn't like being doubted, and I'm going to say, and he won't mind me saying this. Right when I wind the clock right back to the start of the year, we felt, rehab-wise, he could have been doing a little bit more. We felt he needed to get on top of some little areas there. Just what you talked about, that when he comes back, he's back for good. So regardless of his foot, use this opportunity to strengthen upper body. He's had some shoulder issues in the past, which again we've managed to get some of them done while he's been off these last period of time. So at the same time, it is a challenge, but using it wisely so that when he comes back, he is a more robust footballer. Because look, he's not the biggest guy, and the style of game he plays is all action. His braveness, his braveness and tenacity are absolutely unquestionable. He's a kid that's really tried to develop his game. So you would look at our two fullbacks and you look at what Richie Myler brings in terms of his passing game. Jack's more of a support, ball carrier, all action. But Jack's tried really hard, and he's trying really hard to develop other parts of his game. But the biggest part of his game that we've asked him to develop is around, I guess, his physical performance. That because of the nature of his injuries, coming back a more robust, a more robust physical player, we think will help him avoid injuries moving forward. It may not, because sometimes it's just out and out luck. And he gets that, and he's worked really hard on it. And it can be the easiest thing to improve for a player, but it can also be the toughest because of the amount of hard work and detail and dedication it takes to improve yourself in that regard.
Cheers, Rich.
Thanks, mate.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, all right, pal.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Can I just ask you about something else not connected with Leeds, just on the World Cup? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about that this week, about whether it's going to go ahead. I think the last thing they said, 50-50, having said 2 weeks ago it was past the point of no return and definitely happening. Just wondered, have you got a view? Do you think it will happen, or should it happen? Can it happen?
I'm going to be honest, Pete. I've not taken too much notice. Where media is concerned, to be honest, you guys tell me most things I need to know if I need to know them. When we chat with you fellas, I don't sort of read bits, but I don't spend too much time on the ins and outs, and certainly not opinion pieces. People think it should go on, people think it shouldn't go on. I just think as an observer, I think it'd be sad for the game if it doesn't go on. However, these parts of it, with the pandemic and international travel and bubbles, these parts of it that I do understand too. I can see both sides of the argument. It'd be nice to think we could work through a solution. But I get why there would be some trepidation and decision making in perhaps not coming. I hope it goes ahead. Really hope it goes ahead. It'd be great for the game. I think I've been involved in one before. Brilliant. Fans over here love them. You can see some issues. If you get a couple of outbreaks in a squad and it stands a squad down, 6 or 7 members of a squad get stood down for 17 days on a tournament that's meant to last 6 weeks or 2 months? You could see some real problems given the current climate that we're trying to work in. We're kidding ourselves if we think that it couldn't be affected like that. And I can also see the point of view about not travelling, but I hope it goes ahead. I hope they can find a solution and get it on for sure.
Thanks, Rich.
I'm sort of not taking sides, Pete, politically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know for the ins and outs of it to say, yeah, it's safe, it needs to go ahead, or I certainly can understand knowing what it's like for us working in conditions like this day in, day out if you get an outbreak.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Rich, just ask you a really quick one, mate. Is that all right?
I'm Ross, no problem.
I was going to say, Kevin Sinfield's leaving the club after this weekend. He's obviously been an unbelievable servant to Leeds Rhinos. Captain the club to 7 Super League titles. You've obviously worked with him the last couple of years in his role as director of rugby. What can you say about Kevin's contribution to the club as a whole?
Well, his contribution to the club as a whole obviously spans back for decades, Ross, before I arrived. From an outside observer and I guess an opposition, as an opposition coach, the amount of respect, I've had for Kevin and throughout the game, and the teams I've coached, has been enormous. He's such a wonderful professional, a great leader. His achievements speak for themselves. I'm really surprised And I always felt this at the time when he was playing, and really surprised that he was never talked about as a Man of Steel candidate too often, given the domestic success that he had. I think working with him, it's been great. Really, it's been great. We've had I think a superb working relationship. We've had to go through some really, really difficult times to try and get things, sorted out and rebuild, if you like. Personally, we're very different characters, but I think that difference in characters has really helped us both. He's never been afraid to tell me the truth, and he's always a terrific sounding board, deep thinker, talk sense, common sense, and I say never afraid. We've always been in a position that we can disagree on things. And usually when we disagree, we generally come out of it really well aligned, Ross, as well, if that makes sense. We can have disagreements, but always find a way to be on the same page and, in total, I guess, unity in how we come out of it. So, yeah, I'll miss him, mate. I will really miss him. I think we'll miss him as a club. I understand his reasons for taking the new venture. But he's a guy that I'm sure I will continue to be in contact with about day-to-day stuff, about bigger picture stuff, but also on a personal level. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with him, and I am sad to see him go. Very sad.
Yeah, and how will the structure work then, Richard, when Kevin leaves? He's obviously director of rugby. Do you see someone coming in to replace him, or will it just be yourself as head coach working with the rest of the rugby department going forward?
I think the easiest way I can answer that, Ross, is to say we're working through that. I'm very mindful, and I'll use the words that I've spoke about with Kevin and Gary. You're very mindful that as a head coach, you're in the fire every day with the day-to-day running stuff. And as a director of rugby, you get a more holistic overview of things. But there's different parts and elements to it. So in terms of in terms of recruiting, so where we are right now, we're not too bad, Ross, for next year. We've bits of retention to do, if you like, but we sort of know where they are, and most of that, apart from our retention, most things are already in place for that. I think where the academy is concerned, and in terms of development in club, I want to get. I'm happy to get a bit more involved in that too, because that's a real passion of mine, and I also think it's the biggest and best way forward for our club. Gary is a vastly experienced operator who again can assume parts of that, and with Jason Davison and Chris Gibson, we've got two long-term dyed-in-the-wool Leeds people that can also pick bits of things up. Whether that is how it looks for next year, Ross, we will have to, we'll have to wait and see. And that's not that we've got a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. We just need to sort of get through to the end of this year, and then we'll reassess it all. We'll reassess it all at the end. And what you don't want is a head coach that's pulled too much away from the role of head coaching because he's got his fingers in too many pies. So there's different ways around it, mate, and different models. And it's fair to say we're looking at that now behind the scenes to see what is the best model moving forward. And some of that, Ross, can be dictated by the people, the people who's available and the people that you can utilise already within your own organisation.
Cheers, Rich. Thank you.
What I would say, Ross, is, quite often as a club, you judge on your league position. We're judged on being 7th at the moment, but we actually feel, from Kevin, from where Kevin's got it to where Kevin's departing at the moment, we think there's a lot of good things in place, and we're in a decent spot, mate. We think we've got the backbone of a squad that can carry us over the next 2 or 3 years. With some quality additions in there. And we also think as a club, we have got some wonderful juniors that we can provide. We can provide a really strong pathway to. So all in all, mate, while, as I say, you get judged on league position, we understand that, but we do think that the club in a lot of parts, given what's happened with the pandemic too. He's in a pretty all right place.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Oh, good.
Richard, sorry. If it's okay, can I just ask about the short turnaround for both you and Warrington? Obviously, it's been a slightly short turnaround for you. Has this changed your approach to training and preparation for the last 2 games, or has it been somewhat the same?
Yeah, we're not training. That's as simple as that, really. Obviously, the boys played last night in a tough game. By the time we see them tomorrow, they'll be still sore. So we will probably do tiny bits of review from last night, things we think we can't dust over and are really important. But then if we get them on the field tomorrow, it'll be for 10 minutes. We'll have a look at Warrington. What probably does help both teams out is that we played each other only a couple of games ago. So, some of the details of that, I guess we know a lot of this, we know a lot of the strengths, what we've got to prepare for. But yeah, it does. We haven't had the luxury of being out on the field in what you would call a normal training session too many times over the last 2 months, I would say, really, with a shutdown and with a fixture list being as it has been. I'm thinking off the top of my head here, I can probably think to 2, maybe 3 training sessions in 8 weeks where we would have what you would term a normal day at work. It's been very, very cut short and moulded and adapted around what has been a very testing fixture list.
And how has the stop-start nature of the season affected the morale of both you and the players? And can it be difficult when you're preparing for a game with all of the uncertainty surrounding, obviously, the COVID situation?
It can if you let it and you want it to be. I think you've just got to roll with it. It's not going to change. It presents some difficulties, as we know. Whether that be training, whether that be changing your lineup, whether that be COVID standouts and track and trace issues. But it's a new way of working at the moment, isn't it? I think we're all looking forward to the day when we don't have to work like this, but it is a new way of working, and your ability to adapt to these situations is probably going to be key to how successful you are in the competition. I've said this before, if there is a silver lining to it, we have got a lot of exposure to a lot more younger kids. So while it hasn't always necessarily translated into as many results as we would have liked this year, we still feel that for the long-term bigger picture of the club, it has given some of our young kids some terrific exposure to first grade, and we've found out some things really early, earlier than what we might have done about some of our younger end players. So as I say, it is what it is. It's the same for everybody. Everybody's in a position where you're going to have something thrown at you. You've got to adapt, and you just got to do your best in the circumstances.
And just lastly, obviously you've been the only blemish in a long winning run for Warrington. And do you feel that you have their number and a formula to beating them of sorts, or is it just a case of taking each game as it comes?
Oh no, we take each game as it comes. We've got a really healthy respect for Warrington, and that's the coaching staff and the number of quality players that they've got. I think they're a great team, chock-a-block full of quality. Yeah, we've done all right against them, but there's been some close games in there as well. Last time out were a really close game. So they're a team that are always hovering around the top 3 or 4 teams. And as I say, we've got a strong, healthy respect and always expect a tough game, knowing that they're a dangerous team and the speed, as I say, the speed that they've got and some of the individual players that can really burn you on the day, makes them a big threat. But yeah, I'm not sure about formulas. We just expect a strong Warrington team every time we play them.
Thanks very much, Richard. All the best.
Cheers, pal. Thank you.